Hey superfans, this is Sam J. Rizzo,
And I'm Basciano.
and I just wanted to welcome you guys to this very special edition of the Shuster Herald. We're just going to run down a few names for some Lex Luthor candidates, and, we'll see what you guys think at the end of the show. You guys could send us some comments about who you think.
This, of course, is us speculating that indeed Lex Luthor will feature in Man of Steel 2, or whatever they end up calling it, and that Warner Bros. Actually pays attention to any fan lists or podcasts discussing such lists. But anyway, that's the perception we're going off of. Why don't we throw out some names and we'll get our instantaneous reactions to them, Sam?
Okay. So number one on the list, this is the list according to moviestack.com. Shameless plug, but
Never heard of the website, but we'll go with it.
we're just going with their list. This is just the list I pulled up on Google real quick. Number one is Bryan Cranston. What do you think, Adam?
Love the actor. He's great in Breaking Bad, but I personally think he's more suited for Commissioner Gordon in a Batman reboot. So I'm going to say no.
Yes, I definitely see him as the next Commissioner Gordon, if anything. Wasn't he in that TV show? Oh my God, he played the dad.
He was in Malcolm in the Middle, and
Yes.
he's currently starring in Breaking Bad on HBO, I believe.
Right. Number two on the list, we have Khan from Star Trek Into Darkness, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Love the actor.
I love the actor. I just feel you played the ultimate villain as Khan. I don't see him doing it again as Lex Luthor.
Here's my thing. I think he could pull it off, no question.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be interesting to have two British actors playing the two most iconic roles in Superman lore, just to piss off the fan base who think everybody in the role should be American. So I'd do it just for that alone. Having said that, I see him more as a you see, I'm kind of a shit disturber. Excuse my language. But I see him more as a brainiac personally. So if they're going to use him in a Superman film, use him as Brainiac.
That's interesting. I never would have thought of that one.
Who could also end up in Man of Steel too, potentially.
Yeah, that's interesting. Number three on the list, we have Mark Strong, which in the DC universe, he is known for playing Sinestro in the kind of lukewarm Green Lantern film, which I really enjoyed. I just felt the execution wasn't there. I think out of all the names on this list, he's a very strong candidate, but I still just can't get past him, getting over the fact that he already has been in the DC universe and has played Sinestro. So
he's a fantastic actor, as proven by several of his roles, including Sinestro and Green Lantern, which I also liked, despite its flaws, which I acknowledge. But I think for the simple fact that he was in Green Lantern, he will be excluded from being chosen because not because you can't play the same villain twice. I just think that Warner Brothers is planning on distancing themselves from that iteration of Green Lantern, and therefore they won't want to cast any actors that were associated with that film.
Okay, number four on the list, we have Jason Isaacs, which I don't really know much about this actor. So you gotta
just quickly tell us a couple things he's been in, just to refresh people's memories, if you can, Sam.
Let's see real quick. Hold on.
Fire up the good old IMDb, and
Yeah.
as we know, that's not always reliable for current movie news, but for past movie news, it's pretty on the money.
He was in The Patriot as of 2000.
Yes.
He was in A Single Shot in just recently. He has been in Cars 2, which he lent his voice. Green Lantern Emerald Knights. He played.
Oh, another DCU connection then.
Yes, he played Sinestro as the voice in 2011. He was in Batman Under the Red Hood as Ra's al Ghul. He was in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince as Lucius Malfoy. And
well, you know what? I'm going to say this. I'll say that he's got a shot for the simple fact that he's from the bits that I remember that you've just rolled off there.
Mm-hmm.
He is a solid actor, and the fact that he's worked with with Warner Brothers before. As I've said before many times, I think Warner Brothers has a habit of looking at people for their comic book roles that they've worked with before and they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
So given that scenario, I think he could be a possible candidate. Whether he gets the role remains to be seen, but I'd be okay with him potentially being involved.
He is one of the older candidates among the names on this list. So
can I add another one to the list? And
sure.
Get your thoughts on it, Sam?
Sure, go ahead.
I almost got my podcast confused and called you Isaac, but that's besides the point. We're gonna keep a jar around every time I say Isaac or miss, and then we'll contribute some money to the jar. So that won't start now, of course. But my other suggestion is Oscar Isaac, and the reason I suggest him is because he's worked with Zack Snyder before he was the villain in Sucker Punch, and he's also been in other movies like Drive with Ryan Gosling, and he was in Robin Hood with one of Superman's fathers, Jor-El, Russell Crowe.
Interesting. You know what? I could see it. I could see Oscar Isaac as Lex, about the same age as Henry Cavill a little bit.
Yeah, he's 3 years older, but they're contemporary. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's always been assumed that Lex is older than Clark. We saw it in Smallville. Lex was like 6 years older, 8 years older than Clark.
There. Yeah.
So I mean, it's believable. I like the fact. I hope that in the sequel. Sorry, we're talking sequel talk like now again. That they keep them relatively the same age.
Yes.
A little bit. Because that dichotomy would work, I think, a little bit better than, say, a 10-year older Lex Luthor or a 20-year older Lex Luthor battling with a mid-30 Superman.
Yeah,
I don't want to see an older Lex Luthor duking it out with a younger Superman. It just wouldn't. It doesn't. It doesn't feel right.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Another name, which I find kind of interesting that he's on this list, John Hamm, who was considered at one point for Clark Kent and Superman. I know he's on what is it? The show on AMC.
Mad Men, yes.
Mad Men. Yeah, I don't know. I see him more as like an older Batman in a way, or an older version of Clark Kent, more like the Kingdom Come Superman.
Right. He's got that very Alex Ross looking vibe to him.
Yeah, I don't really see him as a Lex Luthor candidate.
My thought on the subject is twofold. One, he said in interviews that this kind of role is not for him, these comic book movies. So unless the money is astronomical, I don't see him partaking.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I don't know if you remember, Sam, I think it was for Saturday Night Live. He did a skit as Lex Luthor.
Right.
He was good in that skit. I just don't see him getting it because everybody's going to see that version in that skit, and that's not what you want. When you get an actor, you want to see him fresh in that role, and
exactly.
I have no prior experience to him in that role. So for that reason, I say no.
So number 6 on the movie stack list is Leonardo DiCaprio. Everybody knows him from Titanic. He was on Growing Pains as a kid. Inception. I don't know. That's an interesting choice. It's a name, and I feel like you need a big name for Lex Luthor. It's a possibility. I think the way that each of these actors, take this role and where they decide to go with it, I think is the key. Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, could easily come in and put a new take on it, much like what Heath Ledger did with the Joker, made it his own. I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio is capable of that. What do you feel, Adam? How do you feel?
You know what? I at first I would have said, if you would have told me 3-4 years ago, I would have said, oh God, Leonardo DiCaprio. Because all I can see is that up until that point was that image of him on the Titanic and
right.
Kate Winslet with her arms spread open. And I remember when I saw that movie, I'm like, can somebody just push him off? Push Leonardo DiCaprio and then eventually drowned. So hey, that's the way that, and then washed up on the shore of Inception. So I thought that was in some way a quasi sequel to Titanic. It was all a dream. But recently I saw him in Django Unchained, and he turned in a great villainous-esque performance. And so I could definitely see it. And he's got the advantage of, again, he was in a movie that made a lot of money for Warner Brothers, Inception, and he is a name. He brings box office credentials and a name and a fan base to the property if he was cast. So I could see it as a definite possibility, and you know what? I'd be okay with it if it happened.
Okay, interesting. The next candidate on the list is, let me know if I'm saying this right, Idris Elba from Prometheus.
It's pronounced, as far as I understand. I could be wrong as well, but Idris Elba.
Okay.
No, we could be mispronouncing your name. If you happen to come up on this podcast, you want to correct us, by all means, send us an email, sir. But in the meantime, this actor is fantastic because he's played everything from fictional characters to real life characters. I believe he's in a miniseries about Martin Luther King Jr. I believe. He was also Heimdall in Thor, if you remember, the gatekeeper.
Right.
So he has experience in this genre. I just think he's a fantastic actor. Again, he's British descent,
right.
Which I like. And another thing that is I think it'll be interesting because again, he is African. He's African American. I don't have a problem with this because I thought it worked fantastic for Perry White. And again, my perception has always been, as long as the core elements of the character are present, race change isn't really a big thing for me. I love him as an actor. If he was cast, I think it'd be a fantastic choice because you should be going after the best actor available. Two things that for me would preclude him from the role. One, he said he wants to be in a superhero film. I know he's already in one, but he wants to play a superhero. In that vein, I think he'd be perfect for Jon Stewart in a Justice League movie, and then a future go around as Green Lantern in a potential solo film. So I'll say no, but I do want to see him in the DC universe as Jon Stewart.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see him as Jon Stewart. And let me just add, he was in Pacific Rim that just opened this past weekend.
Which I saw, and it's fantastic. And by the way, I'm very disappointed in the North American movie viewing audience for elevating, the likes of Grown Ups 2 over something of Pacific Rim's quality. But that's another discussion.
So number 8 on this list is Hugo Weaving. Interesting choice. I just feel, once again, slightly older actor. I don't know. I really don't.
I'm going to weigh in and be definitive on this one. Absolutely not. Here's why. He's played Agent Smith, a villain. He's played the Red Skull. I just think this guy is a villain who's becoming cliche.
So an overused actor as the villain. That's
yes.
It.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no.
So number 9 is one of the fan favorites. He has done the voice of Lex in Superman the Animated Series and other DC animated films. He was on Justice League Unlimited as the voice of Lex. Clancy Brown. I don't know. I love his voice as Lex, but doing a live action interpretation is totally different than getting in a soundproof booth and lending your voice to the character. It's just two different things. I can't see Clancy Brown doing it. As much as I love his voice that he lends to the role of Lex Luthor in the animated projects that he does, I just feel for him to do a live action version of Lex, and plus he's an older actor, like we said, I would stick with about the same age, maybe, give or take 5 or 6 years for the Lex Luthor role. I don't want to see an older actor. I want to see like fresh blood being brought in for the role of Lex Luthor in the sequel. So what do you think of Clancy Brown, Adam?
Listen, I love Clancy Brown as the animated version of Lex Luthor.
Hmm.
When I read Lex Luthor in the comic books, that voice is the one in my head. Having said that, I'm going to go so far as to guarantee this. I guarantee that there is no way that Clancy Brown will be cast as a potential Lex Luthor in any Man of Steel sequel, because the idea behind this franchise is to divorce itself from any other Superman incarnation, pretend that it's never been done before, and to go and cast a guy that was in a Superman portrayal. Yes, it was animated, but it's still Superman. Would fly in the face of their mission statement. So it's not going to happen. And just the same way as much as I wouldn't mind it, Michael Rosenbaum is not going to play Lex Luthor.
Which is who I was going to bring up next is Rosenbaum. Him taking to Twitter and tweeting out how everybody should get behind him and get in the producer's ear that he wants to come back as Lex. I go, that's great and everything. You did a fantastic job for 7 or 8 years that you were on Smallville, but once again, you've had your shot. I just feel like let's get fresh new blood in there for the role and give somebody else the opportunity to put their own stamp on the character.
And listen, I love Michael Rosenbaum's portrayal of Lex on Smallville. I think he's given us one of the greatest live action Lex Luthor's period.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a negative thought or bias against Michael Rosenbaum. Just the opposite. But of course he wants to be in the next Superman movie. You know why? Because the movie's made $620 million at the box office. This is an actor who hasn't worked in a couple of years.
Right. Right.
So of course he's going to say, yeah, I want to be in that.
So next up,
and you know what casting him would do? It would bring out the wackos who would campaign with their pitchforks out about Tom Welling taking over the role of Superman. So no, keep him away for that reason alone.
Exactly. So next up on the list we have Michael C. Hall from Dexter, the TV show Dexter. Interesting choice.
Yes, absolutely yes.
Very interesting choice.
You want to know why? Just watch Dexter, and that's your answer.
Yes, plays a psychopath. Yes, that's it. Just watch Dexter. Very good choice if they decide to go that route. Hasn't really been in any big films of late because of Dexter, of course.
Perfect opportunity to launch back in film.
Exactly, a perfect opportunity for Michael C. Hall. We'll see if they bring him in for a screen test or not. Go ahead, Adam.
I got 2 more names to add to the list.
Sure.
I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay.
I'll give mine and then I'll let you give yours. First, in addition to Idris Elba, who I thought is a great candidate, what about, and this brings the name value, the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio. If they're going to go with the race change, which I'd be totally for, mm-hmm. How about, and I've heard this bandied about elsewhere, it's not my original idea, but I'm throwing it out there because I like it. How about, oh geez, I'm drawing a blank here. Denzel Washington as Lex Luthor.
Wow. I think I knew you were going to go that route. Great caliber of actor. Fantastic caliber of actor. But once again,
if they were going to go older, I should have prefaced that. If they go older.
If they go the older Lex Luthor route, yeah, why not? Why not bring him in and test him against Henry and see what type of chemistry you have there? But once again, I feel you do not want to go way older. You don't want to. You want them competing against each other intellectually, and I feel like Denzel Washington would be fantastic. I mean, he's a great actor. He's one of the best actors in Hollywood today. But once again, I feel give somebody who, yes, they're a name, but yet could put their own stamp on the character.
Here's another name. If they decide to go older, which again,
mm-hmm.
as much as that's not our preference, it might be a possibility.
Right.
So I'm throwing this out there. And anybody who knows me
mm-hmm.
is going to be shocked that this sentence is coming out of my mouth. Okay, ready for this? I hope everybody who's listening that knows me or that's listened to me rant about a certain movie is sitting down. But here it is. How about if they go older, for Lex Luthor in Man of Steel 2, 3, or whatever number he appears,
mm-hmm.
George Clooney.
Wow.
And one of the reasons I'm saying this is because I actually absolutely hate him as an actor.
Well, I mean,
And the best part is I'm supposed to hate Lex Luthor.
mm-hmm.
And what better way than to cast the guy who ruined the Batman franchise? Now, granted, he's a good actor. Listen, my hatred for him aside, for what he contributed to Batman, he's a really strong, solid actor. I got nothing with his capability. And as a fan of Superman, if they were going older, one of the things I would want is for them to go for some of the best actors out there, and he fits that bill.
Yeah, I mean, he could play the suave. He could
As
play.
much as it makes me nauseous. But go ahead.
He could play this very suave Lex Luthor, the billionaire playboy. But yet again, every time he was on screen as Bruce Wayne, he did this grin at the camera, like, "Oh, I'm Batman." You know, this is so cool. Yes, it's cool, but yet still, I felt if they gave him a better script,
right? Yeah,
he would have knocked it out of the park.
I agree.
You know, with Man of Steel, I feel, yeah, if they do go the older route, he could definitely do it. But once again, I just feel like, okay, you have a great opportunity here to make this Lex Luthor special, to make this story special. So I mean, going the older route could work, but I feel you gotta go younger. You gotta show a younger Lex Luthor, just like you did with Man of Steel. You had Henry coming into his own as Superman. You want to see a Lex Luthor that's already established, but yet still young enough to have drive and say, okay, I got to knock this guy down, this alien down, and I got to turn everybody against him. And I want to be the savior of Metropolis. That's what I feel the sequel's the sequel story is going to be about, is Lex showing that he is the savior of Metropolis, not this alien.
Could be.
Yeah.
What about any other names on that list, or?
I have two more names.
All right, let's fire them out.
One is from X-Men First Class, Michael Fassbender, who was also in Prometheus from last summer. What are your thoughts on Magneto possibly switching allegiances and coming over to the DC universe?
Great actor, first and foremost. Fassbender is fantastic as Magneto.
Mm-hmm.
Love him in that role. I'd rather not say much of anything on Prometheus. But I will say this. It's not going to happen, people.
Right.
There's no way. I mean, he's locked in at least for another X-Men after Days of Futures Past.
Which he's filming right now.
And the last time an X-Men actor defected to a Superman franchise, well, we got what we got, and I'm not going to go into that.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, it's not because I don't want it. It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic.
Mm-hmm. And which brings us to our final candidate on this list, and this is my personal favorite for the role. I know a lot of people have said if he's cast as Lex, he's just going to ham it up. I feel the total opposite. There are tons of fans out there that have been dying to see this. He's been cast and he's been on people's cast listings for the last 5 to 10 years as Lex Luthor. Billy Zane, I would love to see Billy Zane as Lex. I mean, yes, he's bald and everything, but yet he is a very good caliber of actor, and he hasn't been in anything major for a while since Titanic, I want to say. But I feel he has the suave stuff down for Lex. He could play the billionaire playboy. He could be cold and menacing at the flip of a quarter or a dime or whatever. I just feel, he's got the look of Lex, very much like how Lex looked in the graphic novel Lex Luthor Man of Steel. If they go that angle with Lex, where he is so driven to the point of almost being self-consumed with the idea of destroying this alien who has come into his city, Lex being consumed with the idea of being the savior of humanity, not this alien. That's what I want to see. I want to see Billy Zane as Lex Luthor. How do you feel about it, Adam?
Well, looks-wise, yes, he looks the part.
Mm-hmm.
Can he do it acting-wise? I believe so. There's been evidence in some of his movie roles that he can portray that,
mm-hmm.
and he can portray a role without getting overly hammy and camping it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strong possibility, and I'd be okay with it. However, I just wonder how serious Warner Brothers would be at looking at him, because, like you said before, he hasn't done anything major since Titanic.
Since
Oh, has he
Titanic.
been in a couple maybe Hallmark movies, a couple made-for-TV movies?
Right.
So I just think, as good as he may or may not be,
Mm-hmm.
he may get overlooked because he hasn't been in the Hollywood,
Collective consciousness.
landscape and consciousness for years.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
that may be to a detriment. But if he was cast and if under the right script,
Mm-hmm.
I think he could put in a strong performance.
Right, and I mean, maybe he could use this as his comeback vehicle, which is
like
many actors have
Robert
used.
Downey Jr. Yeah.
Right. So, as we wrap up, what are your top 3 picks from this list, Adam?
Top 3 picks: Idris Elba,
Okay.
Leonardo DiCaprio, and Billy Zane.
Okay. Well, my 3 picks from this list, I would have to say, is number 1, Billy Zane all the way. Number 2, I would like to see a Leonardo DiCaprio Lex Luthor. As crazy as that sounds, I think it'd be so cool just to, see his name on the marquee with Henry Cavill, which would be really cool.
Oh, women would go nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
Talk about 50 Shades of Grey. These women would be really all over themselves, and God knows what they. I mean, those are,
Mm-hmm. And then my third pick, I would have to see. I'm torn between Mark Strong and Michael C. Hall. I would love to see Michael C. Hall in the film, just to get him on a vehicle for his career, get him on the film, feature film track. And I think him as Lex Luthor could possibly do that. And then Mark Strong, I feel, even though he played Sinestro, I feel he could do it as Lex.
Oh, there's no question in my mind he could do it. I just don't think they'll go to him
because of Green Lantern. But as we wrap up, I just want to say thank you for listening, guys. This has just been a special little episode to fill in the gap as you guys are waiting for episode 6, which is coming this week.
Which is our Man of Steel review, where we go a little bit more in depth on the potential sequel.
Right. So
look out for that.
So you've been listening to the Shuster Herald podcast. I'm Sam J. Rizzo.
I'm Adam.
And thank you for listening.